I've been advocating in these videos on literacy for reading aloud and using a variety of different books from different backgrounds, from different areas of information, from different ethnic backgrounds, and so on, to help students become more literate. But what I haven't done, what I realize I should spend a few minutes on in a video, is to talk about how you, as a teacher, whether you're being a teacher in a classroom or playing the role of teacher reading to your students, how you help a student get the most out of their reading. So let's begin by thinking about a situation where you are reading a book to students. You are reading a multi chapter book, possibly, or you're reading just a picture book. It's all about not just reading the words, but reading the book and reading the book for information. It means thinking about different kinds of questions and how those questions can be answered. The very simple kind of a question is a knowledge question, asking the student through pictures or the text the answer to the question what. If I'm reading, if I'm reading Where the Wild Things Are by Morris Sendak, I might ask a student not what a wild thing is because they won't understand that right away, but what are you afraid of when you are in your bedroom? What is that little boy wearing in the picture? How would you describe that monster in that picture? Things that can be answered easily and don't take a lot of questioning, because the next step up from a straight what is this is to comprehend. Why is the boy in Where the Wild Things Are, why is he being kept in his room? What did he do wrong? What happens when you do something wrong? What happens when you go to bed hungry? Comprehension. You can get at comprehension any number of ways, but it is at the level of comprehension that we begin to get a student or our children to question and to think. As soon as we get them to think, they are learning. They're putting two and two together, for instance, to come up with an answer. What two clues in the Three Little Pigs, what two clues tell you that the first two pigs are not going to be safe and the third pig is? What clues in the picture tell you what the house is built of? Don't listen to the words, just let's look at the pictures. What is that house built of? What is that house built of? What is that house built of? And what house do you think is the safest and why? Then you are asking children to use their eyes to look at something. to think about something. The next level up in thinking skills is to ask the children how they would feel if they are in the position of one of the characters in the story, using the idea of where the well things are again. How would you feel if you were put in your bedroom and punished for something you did wrong? What would you do? What would your parents say? Why were you put into your room? Can you remember? And then the next obvious question is, well, do you think that was fair? Can you think of another way that you could be punished besides being put in your room? And then you have the wheels turning. And children, young and old, because this happens at every age, young and old, questioning and thinking about the line of the story and applying it to themselves. Because after all, what makes us enjoy a book? One book more than another, because we lose ourselves in the story. Or we recognize something about that character that we know exists with us as well. We want our children in the end to understand how to pick up a book and derive pleasure from reading it and also to learn from it. The only way they can develop that at any age and at any level of ability. That's the whole thing. It's not just for the smartest kids in the class, it's for every child in the class, whether they're very bright or only modestly bright. And we all know that there are kids who are only modestly bright. But they're as entitled to learn how to enjoy a good story as somebody else, as somebody who's even a better reader than that. But then we need to start asking them questions about evaluation. And how did you feel about the way that story ended? Did it end the right way for you? Do you think there was a better way to read this? I just read for my podcast, I just read all the way through Ramona the Pest. And after, even though I've read it several times, at the end of the book, I've come to the conclusion that I didn't like the way the book ended. Because at the end, Ramona, who had been skipping school because she thought the teacher didn't like her, Ramona had been told she had to apologize to somebody. And I think the book should have ended with her getting to school and apologizing, because that way the reader also learns a lesson that there is something to enjoy about making a mistake and turning around and learning from it and then saying, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that to you. So at each level that we read a book, sometimes a book can't take us very high with a child, but other times a book can take us from one level to another level to another level of thinking skills. And if you don't understand what I mean by thinking skills, I have a much earlier video in which I talk about the the six levels of thinking skills, the lower order thinking skills and the higher order thinking skills. But we should be aiming when we read or when we ask students to read and then we talk about it, to get beyond knowledge and comprehension, which are the easiest levels to ask questions about, and try to take our students higher, because the higher we get them to think, the deeper we get them to think, the deeper the lesson becomes. The deeper the ingrained learning about life and about different ways of life becomes. So when you choose to read to a child at night, just reading to them is great, but try to ask them questions. Try to get them to anticipate. What do you think is going to happen next? And you'll see the reward will be that you can actually see your children thinking. And it's the thinking that we want. Thanks.